Hello all, and welcome back to a new episode and a brand new season of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And each season, we focus on a different show, reviewing it episode by episode, and we invite you to watch along with us. Right now, we are reviewing The Last of Us, Season 2. We're kicking off our journey today, and we are on Episode 1 titled Future Days. And we're so excited to let you all know that we are joined by a very special guest. Dillon is joining us for this conversation about The Last of Us. We're so excited about it. Dillon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. Yes, my name is Dillon, as has already been mentioned by Jen, and I really like The Last of Us, both the video game and the show, so I am here for that.
Yes, it's going to be fun to hear your thoughts, especially as someone who's played the video game as well, to see some of those comparison points between the serialized television version of this story. And for those of you that have listened to our other partner podcast, Movies and Us, Dillon's been a guest already there. So he's friends of the pod family all up. And we're excited to be talking about TV together now. So it'll be awesome. Sarah, do you want to kick us off with a episode summary for The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1?
Sure. 5 years after the events in Salt Lake City, a now 19-year-old Ellie makes a discovery while on patrol with her best friend, Dina. Back in Jackson Hole, Joel seeks help to mend his relationship with Ellie.
And help he needs. Okay, well, let's go around and share our episode titles of choice for this episode. This is tradition here on TV and Us. Dillon, as our guest, do you want to share your episode title for this one?
So my title is Reasons Not to Go to Therapy.
Nice. Yes.
I don't know how to go into that one without spoilers, but
yeah.
That's the title for me.
You'll just let it be. And it'll be a setup and payoff for later when we get to that whole bit. Yeah, that's great. Sarah, what is your episode title for episode 1?
Mine is Kill Him Slowly.
Nice. That's great. It's great. Who is the him? For if you were to be clicking on this episode, that's great. My episode title is Slowly. So
nice.
Yeah. It's great. It was a very dramatic moment that I'm sure we will discuss fully. Okay, let's go around and roundtable first before we dive into too much of the details of this episode. Just our high-level thoughts, reactions to this first episode of this brand new season of The Last of Us. And then we will give a spoiler and then dive fully in afterwards. But just kind of like pulse check, temperature checks. How did we feel about this first episode? Dillon, do you want to share first?
Yeah, I liked it. I did think that it was slow. I find myself wondering several points, like, who are these people? Why should I care? And kind of in the middle, I had a little bit of a lull, honestly, trying to stay engaged and excited about what they were giving me. But I really liked the opening, and I really liked the close. By the end of the episode, I was like, okay, I'm in and I'm invested, and I cannot wait for more. But I don't know, I think some development challenges they're in the middle for me.
Okay, so kind of a mixed bag, but ultimately ends on somewhat of a high, which is notable. There's some really great moments at the end of the episode, especially some final shots that we will have much to discuss with. Sarah, how did you receive The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1?
Yeah, I think it's a good episode. It's a good start of a season. It's been a couple of years since the previous season, so I feel like this is a good, level set. Okay, this is where we are. This is kind of where we ended. This is where the characters are now, kind of getting acclimated to their lives and their conflicts that are going on, and then setting up a new danger that they're going to explore over this season. So I feel like it does all of the things that it needs to do. I don't think it was like a great or a great episode of TV, but it was good. It did what it needed to do. It did it well, and like you said, Dillon, it sets us up for where we're going to go next. And I did appreciate that it introduces, the physical threats that are there, but then there's also the emotional and the relational threats and things that people are grappling with. So we got a lot going on in this episode that is setting up future conflicts that I think are going to pay off in really, really interesting ways. But it's not a spectacular episode, but it doesn't need to be. And so I think what it does effectively, and it makes you want to see where we're going to go for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it really saves itself a little bit by the end there. I think I feel maybe the least positively about this first episode of the season, and maybe that's because the opening episode of season 1, which granted is the opening episode of the entire show, so I get it, but it's just so strong, so well paced with its emotional bits and its moments, the right balance and order of action, but also setting up kind of the emotional stakes for our main characters. And I felt like this first episode really was so heavy on the emotional landscape and baggage that we are carrying in from season 1 at the end there between Joel and Ellie. And it kind of sits in that headspace for so much of the especially middle section of the episode that I think maybe had the order and pacing of all of that maybe been restructured differently, I would have appreciated that this episode needs to hit on all of those moments and beats. It needs to hit on developing this landscape and backdrop that we're in right now with the community. It needs to set up, obviously, the beginning of where Joel and Ellie are at the start of their journey and this arc that they're going to go on over the course of the season, and then tee up some interesting moments of tension by the end. But I think just like the ordering was maybe a little bit off. The action sequence that happens maybe feels like it comes a little bit too late for me, and we just get so much like emotional processing, which is very important, but perhaps maybe a little less intuitive that I feel like the show had for like when we needed that and how to do that well. We kind of just like slug through it for so much of the first 3/4 of the episode that I found that a little bit difficult and just a little bit of a slog. But I think, like I mentioned at the beginning of my thoughts, the show really and this episode ends on a high, and we've got some momentum going into the rest of the season, which I think is very good. So kind of a mixed bag. The end really saves itself.
So you wanted less therapy in this episode.
Oh my gosh.
Too many feelings.
So many. And we just
there were a lot.
So much time in them, like scene after scene after scene. And I'm like, okay, this is very important for us to emotionally invest in these characters, but also we're tired, exhausted. I want to be entertained a little bit. I want to see some zombies. I want to see some people fighting them, and then give me some of those moments and kind of pepper them in and throughout. I just think like this type of like really deeply emotional episode maybe works really well a little bit later on, maybe episode 3, 2 or 3, maybe 4. Give us a big heavy hitter emotional episode with lots of feelings. But to start the season like this, it's a notable choice. And I feel like it's going to be interesting to see how the trajectory and arc of this season will look back and be like, maybe that did make a lot of sense. I don't know. But from the perspective of entertainment, it was a little rough for me personally. All right, well, let's give a spoiler alert. If you haven't seen The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1, we're about to dive fully into all of the things that happen in this episode and all of those details. So if you haven't watched this episode yet, this is your spoiler alert. We're going in. We're going fully in. Okay, what are some of those big moments, perhaps, from this episode that stands out to you particularly that we must discuss? Should we go straight to some of the like community moments that I think are particularly notable, but like the setting of this entire episode is really centered in this Jackson, Wyoming, truly like a settlement, a civilization that they've built and a functioning society, it seems like, that we get to see many different aspects of and a lot of new characters. Tell me your thoughts about that choice.
I want logistics on how they're feeding all these people.
Yes.
It's such a big town, which is great because they have many people and social connections, and they all seem very supportive in one another. But no, I mean, I think the setting is very picturesque. I find it a little unique because even thinking of like The Walking Dead is what I kind of, when I think like zombie show, that's what I harken back to. But right, that was very dense and jungly, and so you kind of have that threat. This feels very peaceful. Like if any threat is coming, you have like 800 miles before you are going to be faced with it. And so I thought that was just a nice setup. I like the landscaping of it. I am confused why every apocalyptic zombie movie, there's always like a council in the town. But, I guess I have a council. I think I'm over councils. It doesn't seem very exciting to me. I wasn't like riveted by their political discourse. That part just kind of fell flat for me, I think. I'm critical on the council, not a fan.
Yeah, I kept thinking about The Walking Dead too. And like weirdly, this episode made me want to rewatch The Walking Dead. I don't know what that says about me, but there were certain parts that I was like, oh man, that was a really cool part in The Walking Dead in this season. This happened. Like my brain went on The Walking Dead train. But yeah, I think some of those things, and it is something that I appreciate that The Walking Dead does do, is how do you rebuild a society together? And like, what does that look like? And obviously they kill a bunch of zombies and all of that. That's the main point of the show. But I love that grappling and that human piece of, when everything is gone, how do we band together to survive? And how can we build something together that's going to serve all of us? And what do we do when there's conflict within? Like, I think that's such an interesting premise. And I think that council moment could have been a really interesting time to like start to explore some of those things. Like, it's a really short scene, so obviously you're not going to go deep on anything, but man, I thought that would be a really cool moment to start to tee up some of those things. But it was mostly just like, yeah, those girls were lying, or Dina was lying, Ellie was telling the truth. Okay, you guys good to go party? Let's go party. Bye. Like, it was such a dumb scene. I wanted some substance in there. So I hope if we see the council again, that there's actually some substance there, and that scene will point us to some of these larger themes that you can explore in a post-apocalyptic show like The Last of Us.
I also want them to be more alarmed that the zombies are getting smarter. Oh my gosh. Like
Dude.
That
It's
is
chill,
a
Jen.
huge piece. They were just like stone faced, like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The zombies can plan against us. No problem. Let's go party. Like, I'm over here like, yo, this is huge. This is because they have been stable for so long because they understood how their foes operate. There's now this like variability and unpredictability in the thing that is dangerous to them. We need to get everybody that is of use and has strategic mindset together to like figure out what we're going to do in response to this new information. And I feel like, I don't know, that might bite them in the butt a little bit, which I feel like the ending kind of tees up a little bit. Like, this is the peaceful, stable society that they've been built is very much at risk, which is just really comforting. That's really great for us.
Yeah, it's chill, Jen. We don't need to worry. Like, it's all good.
That's a tomorrow problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's like a next year problem, because apparently we're ringing 2099. That's 2029 problem.
So speaking of, because you mentioned the pipe, I was a little lost on that. Is that a water pipe? What is that pipe for?
Your guess is as good as mine. It is an important pipe that they were doing things with for construction of things.
Excellent. And don't get me wrong, I am really interested in where the pipe is going, and I mean that in the story sense, not what building it's going to. But I don't remember that being in the video game at all, and maybe I've just forgotten everything. But I'm like, if that is any type of anything important for food or anything like that, like surely everybody would already be contaminated because all these things are in here. And how far does this pipe go? Because you showed us like at least a 5-mile radius around this place, and it is flat, barren, snowy lands. Like, where is the other end of this that something got into it? So I don't know. I am interested. I did like the cliffhanger. I think that could be very fun, but I have so many logistics questions that I want answered.
This town does not know how to answer them either. Like, I thought that whole bit with Joel and Tommy's wife, I forget her name, it's escaping me, but their whole like short conversation around like how do we know how many people to bring in, but then how do we also figure out how to logistically like take care of the people that are in our community is like a very real like organizational problem that I think is really fascinating. I don't know if the show has the like desire to focus on that too much, but it's a fascinating like logistical like puzzle in my mind and like moral dilemma too of how do we protect as many people as we can, but then at what point are we putting our own people at risk because we've now overextended without the resources to scale. Like that's such an interesting organizational problem and human moral problem that just raises all kinds of like interesting thought trains, both from a what's right for humanity, what's right for the individual versus the collective. It's all quite fascinating.
Yes. Yeah. That's such an interesting dilemma. But also during that conversation, I was like, y'all need to have roommates. Like, Joel has this big old house to himself, essentially, and Ellie is living in the garage. Like, why can't he have some roomies? And, like, people need to, like, I don't know, multiple families in a house because y'all are running out of space here. But the food thing is real. We need a whole behind the scenes of this town and what it looks like and how it operates. We need to know the logistics because we have some questions that need to be answered here.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder how long we'll spend in Jackson. Like it really feels like this first episode as focused and like really camped out in this place, whereas season one, like we're constantly on the move. I'm curious, Dylan, like how much time is in the video game actually spent discussing and meeting all of the like kind of new characters in the town versus like a stop along the way as they enter on the next journey. It'll be fascinating to see like pacing wise over the course of the season. How long are we spending in Jackson before either Jackson goes up in flames or we gotta go because we gotta, I don't know, Abby's coming to hunt us down or we gotta move, you know? I think that'll be interesting.
I am so glad you asked. Thank you for that question. So I have listened to enough of Movies and Us and TV and Us to know generally your stance on flashbacks. And I agree. In television, it does not work super great. I will say a couple of the scenes that we saw in episode 1 in the video game were retold later through flashbacks, which I think made them more impactful. I really like flashbacks in video games. I do agree it doesn't quite land in TV, but I think that's what we saw in this first episode was some rushing to avoid a flashback and get these things out early, which just kind of felt like, to I think some comments earlier, kind of like trauma dumping. Just here's all of this emotional baggage all at once, because I think they wanted to pull away and not flash back a ton. But I suspect if they stay true to the source material, we will not spend a majority of the season in Jackson. So I'm looking forward to see where it goes and where it wants to take us from here. Because I honestly think that some of my boredom, if I can even use that strong of a word, in the middle of the episode was because I thought we were going to get somewhere else faster. And I was like, why are you wasting time on this? We have to get to the big thing. So I don't know. So they may go in another direction and they may drag it out a bit longer because obviously they've announced the season 3. I know we're only in episode 1, but there is not a third game. So while I don't think we'll be there, they might also go a very different route and just pad a bunch of stuff in.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Especially since the show seems so interested in like the humanity and what does being in the apocalypse mean for us in our humanity. Like there's a lot of opportunity for that when you've got a whole bunch of people living in a town together for those clashes, the best sides of us, the worst sides of us to all come out in some funky ways. So we might get a little bit more time here. It also, the first episode introduces like new characters that are part of this settlement to us too, which was making me think, like, are we spending some time here? You know, like we get introduced to Jesse, we get introduced to Dina. Like this isn't the Joel and Ellie adventure through America, road trip through America that we got throughout season 1. So we're really like spending time building emotional investment in some of these characters that are a part of the settlement. So I'm curious to see like what will happen to those. Honestly, I was just afraid someone was going to die in this entire episode because that's what happens so often in The Last of Us, especially in season 1. Just concerned for every character that we were growing invested in. I'm like, oh no, are you going to die? Are you going to die?
But also, that's like, I think my favorite thing about this series is they're not afraid to kill off loved characters. And that makes me like it more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I feel more invested. I feel more connected. It gives the world a level of gravity that too many other shows are. The writing isn't there. The other characters aren't there and fleshed out enough to support continuing on in the absence of these main, pieces that they've set up. And I agree. I was also sharing that apprehension of like who's going to go, but I love that, and I hope they don't pull any punches and we'll continue to remove beloved characters.
I do too. And season 1 was so savage in being able to do that. Like nearly episode after episode, you just fall in love with the character and then they're gone. So I was most concerned for Dina over the course of this episode. I was like, oh no, we know that Ellie's been through so much and the show's about to put her through more, I'm sure. But she seems to make it out alive for this one. So I'm holding my breath for her because I think she's so electric on screen and has such charisma and personality. I would love to see more of her, and I'm glad to see that we'll hopefully get at least a little more of her before maybe she also goes with the rest of the Last of Us characters.
Yeah, and I think, that ruthlessness with the characters helps make it exciting, and that reality in this post-apocalyptic world that literally no one is safe. And I love that the first season of this show does a great job of demonstrating that and shows us and helps us as the audience experience that heartbreak over and over and over that these survivors are also going through. And so just the first season is written so well and getting you to empathize even more deeply with these characters. So hopefully season 2 will continue in that trajectory and they'll go on more adventures and there will be more ruthless writing. That'd be really satisfying.
More ruthless writing. That's what we want. I love it.
Please. Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
I feel like we're in the Roman Colosseum right now.
Yeah. Okay, other big moments or notable choices that this episode makes that we want to talk about.
How did we feel about the therapy scene?
Long sigh. I was not a fan of it. I think that it works even a little bit only because those two actors are so talented, and like are bringing something to the screen.
100%.
But like on paper, it didn't feel like that's how that scene would go with Joel, you know what I mean? And obviously we don't know much about Gail, but her like whole confession around her anger about her, it was so awkward, I think that there's some really great work that Pedro Pascal does with, the close up on his face, and you just see these waves of emotions that are happening for him as he's realizing and understands already the depth of things, the lies that he's told to Ellie and whatnot. And obviously we know that as the audience, but I think like that, I'm like, okay, that saves the scene a little bit, but on the whole, it was a little awkward. And it's the cherry on top of my whole problem with this whole episode 1. So yeah, that whole scene didn't work for me at all. I feel like that's not how that scene would go. What about you guys? How did you feel about that therapy scene?
Yeah, I love Catherine O'Hara so much. And so I was just so pleased to be spending time with her. Yeah, the scene, I didn't care, honestly. I'm like, I don't care about anything that you're talking about. And then she drops the, like, you killed my husband thing. And I was like, wait, did I miss something? Is this a character that I have forgotten? Because honestly, I forget things. So I was just very confused. But then the other place that my brain went, because I was not emotionally invested in the scene, is how are they making eyeliner because Gail is wearing a ton of eyeliner in that scene. Is this like a commodity that they're creating in this community? Did she just like stock up on years worth of eyeliner before everything went to hell? Like, how does she have that much eyeliner to be putting on that much, presumably every day? So that's not important. But I was so bored during the scene that is where my train of thought went.
You know, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a great point. I would imagine Jackson, Wyoming is not just overflowing with cosmetic stores, especially not years and years after this big event. But no, I mean, and you could probably tell from the way I asked the question, but I'm very much with y'all. It was just weird when we got into You Killed My Husband. It was way too much for not having any connection to the therapist or who the husband was. It was weird. Yeah, I think the only reason that the scene did carry any weight for me at all was, to your point, Jen, just the two actors, right? I think their quality helped give it some momentum. But I mean, the end result was just Joel hearing that, quit being a like stereotypical, like single divorced dad, right? Like you have a teenage daughter, you need to give her space, and you've probably done something and you need to acknowledge that. Like, right, that was good, but we could have done that in so much less time without all the fake, in my opinion, fake drama of You Killed My Husband.
Yes. And the thing is, like, that scene is also shot with such close-ups of their face to like heighten the drama and the emotions of it, You're just like, what is going on? This is such a deranged client-patient relationship. Oh, I guess like they're alone in the apocalypse. Therapy will look a little weird,
Yeah, and it's so interesting because when it's first mentioned that Joel is in therapy, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, way to go, Joel. Like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. Like, therapy is such a good thing. You don't need to be ashamed of it. Like, let's go. And then we get into the session and I was like, oh, this is not what I wanted, though. Like, I'm very proud of you for going to therapy. Please keep going. But also, I didn't need this scene because it's just a rehash of basically everything that we've already gotten throughout the episode.
Agreed. The one silver lining I will give that scene is Joel clearly has issues and does not communicate emotions well or process things well, I don't think. And so I was also sitting through it and I was like, this would be the therapist that he selects. Like, this would be his outlet. He would come to like this dysfunctional relationship and be like, this is fine, right? I'm going to trade alcohol and poorly grown marijuana for some of the worst therapeutic advice anybody could ever receive. And I'm good with this relationship. He'll probably go back next week. Like it fits.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, and I love that after her confession, she's like, see, now your turn now. As if that was supposed to like help him feel comfortable to share his like deepest, darkest feelings of guilt and shame about a choice that he's made with like the person he loves most on earth, Like, I don't think that's the right method or approach, my girl, but makes for some great entertainment. So my other struggle with this episode is I loved how season 1 takes us on a journey where we're rooting for Joel. He's our hero. He's dad, he's protector. And then it gets worked and it gets twisted by the end, and his morality, his integrity is essentially immensely compromised in the relationship that he cares about most. And that conflict is really fun. We're like, oh my gosh, like this character that we were rooting for, that was our kind of light to follow throughout this really dark environment. Like, oh, he's also not that great, like what does it say about humanity? And I wanted more of that tension in this episode. And I think I needed more moments where Joel is great in this episode, because for the most part, he really sucks in this episode. And I'm hoping in episode 2, we maybe get more of those moments where Joel has moments where he softens, he's able to express a little bit more, or he's caring for someone in a really meaningful way and showcasing those sides of him that we know that he has, but we're just not seeing any of them at all. And I think that makes it also hard to like root for, invest in, get excited about this character that's in a really like emotionally difficult spot, but we kind of need that like investment to like root for them, like, no, you've got this, you can make amends, you can do it. And I'm just kind of like down in the dumps with him too over the course of this first episode. So I think we need a little bit more of those glimmers or like moments or flashes of hope, goodness, all those sides of him that we've seen, because this first episode really showcases, I think, he's just being an asshole for most of this and like really heavy in the toxic masculinity, like shutting down mode. And I think we just need, so I think I need as a viewer a little bit more to like root for him and get invested and be excited about his journey of growth and mending the relationship with Ellie. It doesn't need to happen fast. I just need like a little glimmer of possibility here, because for the most part, he's just like one tone for most of this episode. How did you guys feel about Joel?
So I have a slightly rosier picture of Joel overall, but I do think, and I will put a disclaimer on it, of I might be conflating video game Joel with TV show Joel. So I might have some of that I'm like justifying some issues. Because I do agree that he had lots of bad moments. He's just very into like, she doesn't appreciate me, and it's like, dude, you did some really traumatic stuff and she knows you're lying to her. Like, you need to be honest about that and acknowledge your fault. But like overall, like you can tell how much he cares. And I also appreciate that in his love, while he's still being like creepy and just like coming into the garage, like, which is very much like a dad of like, I pay the bills, I can come into your room. Like, it's giving me some creepy dad vibes, I'm not gonna lie. But he does also give her space. Like the show clearly acknowledges like they have not talked in a while, even though they live together. So like he's not prying or forcing his way in there. The dance scene, while very much an overreaction and definitely probably is going to make things worse and harder for Ellie, at the same time, I also, from a complicated, weird dad aura, appreciated that he to have reacted that quickly to Seth, hurling the slur at them and then immediately pushing him down onto the floor, means he was in the room, paying attention, trying to give them space, but also is like hovering. Like it's I'm not justifying it. I hope that's not coming across. Like it's creepy parental behavior, but he also is like trying to some level respect boundaries, but also still be there to protect and make sure nothing bad happens. And so that does endear me a little to him, that he's trying to acknowledge that just space and time is needed for Ellie to grow and figure this out, and them to figure it out in time and not just force something.
And an aspect of this episode that I did appreciate is that we don't see Joel and Ellie interact until almost the end of the episode. And I thought that was really interesting, because we see Joel's perspective and then we see Ellie's perspective, and they're talking about it with multiple people too. So this is the talk of the town. This is the hot gossip, y'all. Like, wow, this is what we're focused on. But I loved that, because we're kind of forming our opinions. We know what happened in season 1. We don't know what's happened in the past 5 years. And then we're just hearing both of them kind of talk about it and how it's grating on them and kind of wearing them down. And then we finally see a couple of interactions with them. And I just thought that was a really interesting way to kind of piece it together, of this is how Joel is feeling and processing the relationship. This is how Ellie is feeling and processing the relationship. And then we can see a couple different scenarios and kind of make some, I don't know, kind of decide our own opinion on where their relationship is and kind of what's going on between them. And I don't know, I thought that was an interesting way to structure the episode.
Yeah, I liked that choice as well. It's nearly like the last scene of the episode where we see them interact. I think it's in the last 10 minutes. I remember hovering over to be like, wow, we really are seeing that first interaction between them for so long be so delayed. And it's even icier than I was anticipating, like we've built up so much of that suspense of how they feel about each other, and it's just it's really, you feel the rift between them that is so large. And I think there's a lot that's really great that's implied where we don't know how much she knows and how much he knows and what conversations they have or haven't had leading up to this point. We're kind of only seeing the after effects of it, and so presumably she knows what he's done, and that's the reason for a lot of her feeling and reaction and bitterness towards him. But how much have they talked about it? How much have they processed together? Like, it seems like not much at all. They're kind of in the freshness of the emotion of it all. So I think it's all that guessing that we get to do as the audience between how long it's been since she's found out. Like, all of that is so unknown to us, which I think works well because it's not spelled out for us, which is really great. Okay. Any other last big things, big moments, choices that are made in this first episode before we give out some TVNS awards?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we hit everything on my list.
All right. Dillon, anything from you? Or else we'll give out some awards?
Now let's do some awards.
Okay, let's do it. So the TVNS awards are a tradition that we here have on the pod. We essentially give out some fake awards with these defined categories to the moments, characters, or lines of dialogue that fit the bill for whatever the category name is. So the 3 awards that we have for The Last of Us is Scrappiest Survivor, given to one of the characters of the episode. Grittiest Moment, however we want to interpret grittiest, is all fair game for a moment that happens in the course of the episode. And then the final category is the Straight Shooter Award. So this is given to a line of dialogue. There's usually lots of great candidates for this one. So first category is Scrappiest Survivor. Dillon, what is your choice for this award?
So I'm taking a generous interpretation of Survivor as just a character who at one point survived. I want to give it to the bear. Because that bear, I didn't totally get the connection, but I'm pretty sure they said fought the more advanced version of the zombie, and so fought like 3 of those things. Bear was just hungry, coming to town, trying to get a snack out of the store, ended up in a fight for its life, took 3 of them down. I think that is worthy of the Scrappiest Survivor Award.
Yes,
a great choice.
That is so good. Yeah.
Well done. Well done. He just wanted a snack. Come on. He had the right idea, too. He saw the market sign. He was like, that's the storehouse. It's where all the goods are. It's where the Cheetos and the Doritos are. Good stuff. Sarah, what's your choice for Scrappiest Survivor?
I want to give this to Abby for her 5-year quest for vengeance.
Yeah.
Like, that's intense, bro. And she is not in this cushy little town. We don't know where she's been. But man, that vengeance has been fueling her. That's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's only, it's her and one other dude left. So there was like 6 of them earlier. Like, oh no, what happened to them? Maybe they went on their own separate ways. I just assume they died because it's The Last of Us, you know? My choice for Scrappiest Survivor is Ellie when she's cutting herself with a blade and sewing herself back up unflinchingly. That's some badass shit right there. That's some great stuff.
Mm-hmm. How did you both do with that scene? Because I know both of you can get a little squeamish.
Not great. That was like a close my eyes, peek through my fingers type of moment. That was, hats off to Ellie.
Yeah. Her facial expression unchanged. It was like, I am here watching you do this, and I'm already shriveling up into a tiny ball. I was so grateful when she got out the sewing kit and they immediately cut away. I breathed the biggest sigh of relief, let me tell you. I was like, please do not show this. No. They do a real close-up of that blade, too, on her stomach. Ooh. All right, the next category is Grittiest Moment. Dillon, what is your choice for this category?
Well, so you kind of beat me to it, but I was going to talk about Ellie cutting the lines on her stomach, which made me very squeamish.
Yep. Very much indeed. Sarah, what is your choice?
Yeah, mine was also Ellie's self-surgery, but now I'm going to give my runner-up, which was the family-friendly town dance.
Nice. Yeah, that was oh, rough times. The vibes were weird. The vibes were real weird.
Vibes were so weird. Like,
Ugh.
I'm not a party person. That's not my vibe. But like that
Really?
vibe, I did not want to be at that dance. Like, get me out of there now.
The music's a little wonky. Twisted. There's just like old dudes sitting around watching this girl. It's weird. It's weird vibes. It's the apocalypse for you. My choice for grittiest moment is Gail's eye roll and sip from her drink at the party at the end. There's some savage judgment happening right there. I love it.
Yeah. She has some thoughts and feelings and will make sure that they are known.
Yep. As Joel stomps away. It's good. All right. The next category is straight shooter word given to a line of dialogue. What are your choices for this one? Dylan, do you want to share yours?
Yeah, so I struggled with this one. I thought there were several good ones, but ultimately I'm going to give it to Ellie at the dance yelling at Joel saying, "What the F is wrong with you?" Because that is just not my behavior. Like, that just takes so much. Like, I am truly, purely angry at you. Like, I cannot imagine yelling at somebody like that in front of like a whole room. That just like, that to me is like, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm going to give it to you exactly what I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Yeah. I'm reimagining that scene, and Joel just looks so defeated, too. It's so rough. The scene is so depressing. This whole episode's so depressing.
It is. Yeah, because I think in Joel's mind, he was like, I've come to the rescue. And then she's like, I wanted nothing of what you just did.
Yeah, just so misguided. But so well-intentioned, I suppose. It's a great choice. She shoots it real straight. Sarah, what's your choice for straight shooter award?
Well, I'm going to give it to our misguided guy, Joel, when he says, I can't hold myself responsible for another person's emotional state. And I went, that is some truth right there. Like, man, I have had to learn that lesson as well, Joel. So thank you for putting it out there in the universe.
I love that Dina immediately is like, oh, so you've been going to therapy.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good. I love when you can see that happen in real life too. You like see someone say something that you're like, that is therapy coded. That is like language construction of words together. Well done. We love to see it. Okay, my choice for straight shooter award. I had a couple candidates, but I'm going to go with Abby talking about Joel. Slowly, when we kill him, we kill him slowly. We love some clear instructions. Very good, Abby.
Mm-hmm. We love it. We love that clarity. Like, she knows what she wants. She's going to go after what she wants. You go, girl. You do your thing.
Mm-hmm. There's some deep vengeance. Ready. 5 years been brewing. Okay, looking ahead, what are you excited to see in the next episode, in episode 2, or over the course at some point of the season? What are you excited about or hoping to see?
For me, I was very interested in the character development of having like control over your life, your destiny, things around you. So, for example, Joel wanting to like control this relationship with Ellie, wanting to control things happening in the town with people coming in, people pushing back. Ellie has this sense of control, I think, of like wanting free will, and so she's acting out, taking very risky, behaviors and decisions. We had Jonas, the guy at the gate, and we kind of had this interesting scene around like, you're only 4 years older, you're not the boss of me. We then had the captain on the patrol squad, who's Ellie's ex, and like, I think she's trying to do some things there with like, I want Ellie back, kind of with some of the longing looks. We have Abby wanting to control like this revenge. We just had, I think, I saw so many elements of people expressing like a desire and a thing that they wanted and struggling to get there, from minor characters to major. And clearly not everybody can get what they want. I think season 1 taught us about that. And so I'm really interested to see what new commentary they can add to that point in season 2. And I want to see some characters maybe realize those things that they wanted to control, really, it's bittersweet, right? Once they get it, it's kind of like the dog chasing the garbage truck. It's, oh, this isn't really what I wanted, and I want to see some people never get the thing that they wanted. So I'm just really interested to see where they go story-wise with adding some new dimensions to that concept of control of your fate.
That's such a fabulous point, because this town, this settlement, this community of Jackson, Wyoming, almost maybe has allowed everyone to feel like they have the luxury to desire for and have control over things in their spaces. And if we've learned one thing from season 1, it's that like every desire, longing, hope you have is constantly being shaped by what's possible around you. And there's oftentimes so much that you want and desire for that will just never come to be because you're living in the apocalypse with zombies, you know? And I wonder how much this like bubble that they've been living in has almost given everyone this feeling of safety. And once those like immediate survival needs have been met now, they can long for those things. But when that's taken away, like what comes out next in all of these different characters that we've seen? Because as human beings, we love control. And when we don't have it, like sometimes the worst sides of us come out, and sometimes we deal with that lack of control in like really weird ways too. But also it brings out the most self-sacrificial parts of us when we are able to like really be there for others in a way that like they can't for themselves. And so it's really fascinating to bring up that concept, almost that character of control, and us talking about how so much of this episode has been set in this community. And I feel like there's some like really interesting correlation here between these characters almost having built for themselves the luxury to want and desire for things that are maybe out of reach now. But man, once the zombies come and the fungi and the settlements continues to grow, like so many of those desires and needs are now going to be totally shifted and reprioritized out of sheer survival. And what will that do for these traits that we've seen from these characters when they've been in peaceful environments versus maybe when they're in more volatile, more apocalyptic types of circumstances? Yeah, that's a really fascinating point.
And I'm ready for those apocalyptic moments. I'm ready for more fighting some fungus zombies. I'm ready to learn more about these new ones and just seeing more, because it's been 5 additional years for this fungus to continue to mutate and do whatever science-y things it's doing. I'm excited about that. Let's see some new things. Let's meet some new dangers and some new foes. Like, let's get out of our comfy, cozy little town and start going on some adventures. Like, that's what I'm ready for. I would also love to see Joel and Ellie have some time apart. Like, can we just separate for a bit? Can we just live our own separate lives for a little while? Because y'all are not doing great together. Can we just have a little time out and some time apart? Maybe some separate adventures might be fun. But I want to see more of the world and see how things have changed over these last 5 years. And then, like you both have said, like, through that, as these characters are grappling with these new scenarios, we can find out more about them and how they have grown and changed as well. And that's something that the first season really excelled in, is they just dropped Joel and Ellie in a situation, and then we learned so much about them based on their reaction, and we got to see their progression over the season. So I hope that we see a lot more of that throughout the season and less of conversations about what we're feeling. Like, I want to see those rather than you telling me all about it.
Yeah, we love Gail, but we'd love to see Gail in action and maybe less conversations with Gail that are awkward and weird. Yeah, I'm really curious to see where the show will take the Ellie and Joel relationship. It's so icy right now. It is Antarctica between the two of them. And I think that so much of their relationship in season 1 was built from them just like having no other choice but to have to trust each other as they're fighting for survival together and become a team. And so I'm just intrigued to see like what will be the thing that allows them to begin to mend the relationship. What circumstances do they have to be put in for them to like almost be forced to have to take those leaps of faith to learn to trust each other again. And that like difficult, rocky journey when a relationship has felt like so betrayed, how do you rebuild again? And I wonder how long the show will stretch the like chasm between them before we begin to see steps of their like growth together as they rebuild. I just am intrigued to see like that arc over the course of the season. And because this episode starts with the very ending scene of season 1 finale of Joel's lie, like it really feels like it's framing the whole season with that lens and that being so pivotal and so vital to like remind us of that. So I'm just very intrigued to see what the show will do for that human relationship arc. And then, man, the fungi has infiltrated the settlement through the pipe. That's horrifying. And they're also getting smarter. So I'm excited to see their like new powers and how all of these characters are going to have to learn to respond and adapt to it. I don't know. I feel like right now the whole like AI craze is like so big, and that whole language around like learning to evolve and adapt to the environment is like very much oddly like being used here and also in our actual environments, which is wild. So I'm just intrigued to see how that will play out and how they'll have to learn the world all over again. Because like you said, Sarah, it's been 5 years. So the fungi have gotten smarter, which is so scary, but will make for some great entertainment, some great fight sequences, which we're here for. All right. Well, this was our review and discussion of episode 1 of The Last of Us Season 2. You can find it available on Max. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of TVNS, and a big thank you to you, Dillon, for joining us for this conversation about this episode. It's awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. Had a great time.
Our name, TVNS, sums it up. We're big fans of TV and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories. So everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today as we kicked off our journey through The Last of Us Season 2. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about episode 1. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at TVNSPod, or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. We will be back very soon to discuss episode 2 as our journey continues with our crew for The Last of Us Season 2. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.